Hello and welcome to the ParentNet podcast by Focus on the Family Singapore. In each podcast, we'll be tackling questions that parents are asking about family life, parenting, work life, and so much more. So join us on this journey of discovery together.
Hello and welcome to the ParentNet podcast. My name is June and I'm your host for this special episode on motherhood. Motherhood is filled with ups and downs. There is this quote that goes, "Motherhood is seeing your heart walk around outside your body and hoping the world is gentle with it." This to me kind of captures the essence of the emotional bond and love a mother always carries for her children. Sometimes, however, we forget to be kinder and gentle with ourselves on this journey of motherhood. With us today in the studio is Jasmine Goh, mother of 2 young adult boys, and Adelene Chan, mom of 3 young ones. Jasmine and Adeline, it's really so good to have you on the podcast today. Can you perhaps share with our listeners a bit about yourself?
Thanks for the introduction, June, and the opportunity to be on this ParentNet podcast. Hi everyone, my name is Jasmine. This year, my husband and I celebrate 27 years of marriage, and we are truly grateful for the journey of parenthood and the joy of raising 2 young adult sons.
Thanks, June, for having me. I'm Adelene Chan. I am the eldest daughter of 4 kids. My husband and I have been married for 15 years, and we have 3 kids between 3.5 years old to 11.
So a recent Singapore study actually found that mothers with a positive sense of mental well-being actually tend to adopt healthier parenting styles. And this in turn fosters better social and cognitive skills in their children. So needless to say, right, every mom will want to have great mental wellness. Who doesn't want that? But sometimes the journey can be challenging. So what do you think causes these stresses and anxieties to sometimes feel heavier for moms?
I think the desire to give our kid the best, even though best can be arbitrary, gives us a lot of pressure. Sometimes we see what our friends or our family members are doing, and we also want to, either we want to do the same, or we question whether we are depriving our children of what is good when we don't do the same thing. So I think that adds to one level of stress. Personally, I also found that trying to manage everything on my own added to my own stress in my journey. I think as an eldest daughter, I found it hard to ask for help. So that was something I had to learn through over time. So before I could get to that, I was quite stressed out in the early seasons, early years, parenthood.
Wow, thanks for sharing. I never knew that, or at least I never thought about, the fact that our own family of origin or even our birth order might have an influence on how we approach parenthood and motherhood, right? Yeah, so that's a really interesting insight that you shared. So the desire to do our best and sometimes seeing what other people out there are doing, which is very easy in today's social media world, can cause that slight comparison and wondering if we are doing enough. Jasmine, what about you? What causes stress and anxieties?
So I can identify with what Adeline has shared, right? The other reasons I can think of, especially during my early years of parenting my sons, is really one of them trying to balance different roles. Balancing different roles such as a working professional, a wife, a daughter, and even as an individual. To me, sometimes it leads to putting unknown expectation on myself. And that balancing career aspirations with family responsibilities often leads to guilt and time pressure, which also leads to frustration and sometimes really negative emotions in my mind, in my whole being. The other one is really not having enough self-care. I realized that, earlier years when the children were younger, when I tried to balance work, families, you're left with really little time. And someone spoke to me and said, self-care is important. You need to refill your tank so that you can give. So that part I've seen embraced quite a lot to myself, to make intentional, however little the time is, to have that minimum self-care.
I'm hearing self-care, definitely. Something that I relate to as a working mom myself. And then there's also the many roles and many hats that we wear, right? It's not just the mother's hat, although that can be really a big one, right? A big role, especially in the early years. But then there is the other many different hats that we wear, the many different roles that we want to play often simultaneously, right? And trying to find that balance.
Yeah.
So finding that balance and rest for ourselves can really be difficult in some seasons. And in the midst of it all, like, the different roles that we play and also, the different desires that we have to do good by our children, we kind of have this idea of the kind of mom that we want to be. And along with this idea comes certain expectations. Oh, we should, be able to guide our kids in our studies maybe, or we should ferry our kids around to school or to enrichment. Yeah, many, many things, right? What were some of these expectations that you had early on? And maybe what did you have to release along the way?
I think like many moms, I began my journey, right, with really heartfelt hopes and ideals about the kind of mom that I would like to be. Starting a career in banking, I had aspirations to be a successful banker. I also had an aspiration to be a good mom. And I wanted to be the successful working mom who could balance career aspiration with family responsibilities, thinking that, hey, other successful women, working mom can do so can I. Without thinking that it requires effort, I thought it's really effortless. Work-life balance, how difficult could that be, right? I mean, being 30 plus, full of energy, I can go and kick football with my sons, swim with them. And I'm a planner. So I learned to plan. So in my heavy traveling schedules earlier years, I planned most of the schedules even when I'm away, like clockwork. Ensure that homework was done, attended classes, be with this family, have dinner, so on and so forth. Really like clockwork. Unknowingly, your exhaustion starts seeping in. But physically, you are still okay. But mentally, exhaustion starts sinking in, right? And one day it finally dawned upon me while looking at my children that I am present with them. I am with them. Yet I was not fully present with them. It gave me a moment of realization that, their growing up years are just going to be so fast. What is going to be the core foundation will be building strong relationships with my sons more than anything else. So what are the things I let go? I let go and say, hey, housework can wait. I let go and say, okay, fine. Oh, the 10 words of spelling, you can't get full right. It's fine. We all make mistakes. Learning to say sorry to them when I'm in my angst and frustration, when I raise my voice, and share with them struggles, of course, in the age-appropriate manner, it helps.
I think before I became a mom, I had the idea that I would like to be a stay-at-home mom, raise my kids. I wanted to be the fun mom, we can do fun things together. I'll be laughing with them, they'll enjoy being with me. But over time, I realized that it was hard to be the parent who's mainly home, doing chores, cooking. And then after that, over time, I began to work and I did part-time work to manage that side of being the adult who's at home and then still trying to discipline them, manage their emotions. And then after all of that is done, turn around and then still be, okay, let's go and do something fun. I couldn't take it. There's so much emotional work that was involved, required, that I wasn't ready to do. I wasn't ready for. I didn't expect to have to do so much emotional work. So I think I had to change or let go of the idea of what it meant to be fun. I've been on this journey 11 years now. So I think sometimes it's not long, sometimes it's quite long. But I think what I've learned is that when I am with them, I just have to be with them, not like sitting with them but on my phone or reading a book. Sometimes being together is okay, but more often than not, especially for the younger one, I just need to be there and engage in that play, whatever it is he's doing, I just engage with him. And then for the older one who is 11, trying to understand her worldview or, whatever she is interested in, even though I don't always agree with it, we can talk about it, we can process it together. And then with girls also, this whole thing about, this girl is my friend, she's not my friend now, she did this, and then now I have a new best friend, and then there's another best friend, and then how many best friends do you have? Well, I don't know, how do I keep track? I don't know, never mind. So this is the journey that I'm going on, and I think learning how to let go of what I used to think would be ideal for my kids, adapting to what they are telling me or they're showing me that they need right now is part of the journey that I've gone on.
Well, I really love what both of you have shared, right? And I was kind of chuckling at the fun mom bit because I relate to that, right? And about after 17 years of parenthood, I have come to admit to myself that, okay, daddy can be your fun parent, I'm just going to be the one who gets things done and also understand and work through your emotions with you. Like, I'm going to play by my strengths. what you said. Definitely, right? I mean, being the stay-home mom or balancing some work at the same time, and then you have to look at the chores, and then you have to look at the discipline, and then like, how do you suddenly turn around and play with all your heart with your kids, right? It can be hard to shift. And I really like what you said about letting go of ideals. So both of you talked about being present with your children, and that need not be what you had imagined in your head, but it is what you can master at that point in time. And when you are with them, you are really with them, and that's just the simple goal that you have, right, for that moment. So with all this learning as you grow and your kids grow, and for you, Jasmine, your boys are like really young adults already, so you've been through all the different stages, and I resonated with what you said about how it just goes by so quickly. Motherhood stretches us in really different ways, right, at different stages. I wonder what gave you the strength to sort of persevere on even when it was hard.
Yeah, a couple of things I've learned through the years. I think one very important thing is I'm very thankful to have a soulmate, my husband. You know, sometimes just offloading to him, opening up to him about the challenges of motherhood, although not all the time, but sometimes just, you know, offloading. So this is something that I do sometimes. Having a community of moms as well. I still keep very much in touch with the moms of my children who we call ourselves the primary school moms, and we still meet up, we still have our chats. Now in this season, like what you say, the young adult season, the very different, what are the challenges, what are the joys, that part of the community to be able to talk it out also help. The other one that I really feel is important, I mentioned before, is really letting go of self-imposed expectations that people may not even have of you. And the other one is to embrace intentional self-care. That is important because when I do things that make me feel alive, when I do things that recharge and refresh me, when I go back to the living room, when I go back to the workplace, it gives me a sense of energy to face another day. So what I do for self-care, you may wonder, I love walking. I love having, even just by myself, going to a cafe, having a cup of coffee by myself, just looking surrounding, you know, to get the recharge, to refill my emotional tank so that I can give me energy to carry on challenging times, sometimes balancing both motherhood and work. So those are some of what I do.
Sounds like your hubby, you know, the community of moms, and then that self-care bit, right, that you mentioned earlier as well, is really so important. And then letting go of the expectations, that kind of sits quite nicely under the self-care. Kind of fits into it as well. Thanks for sharing. What about you, Adelene?
I think for myself, I had to learn how to ask for help. Took me quite a long time to get there. For many years, because we were staying on our own. It was just a family of 4 before my youngest one came along. Then I was doing everything, and I found it hard to ask, you know, my in-laws or my parents for help. Our family situation changed, and we moved in with my husband's grandma, and she had a helper. So then I had to try and navigate what it was like having help who wasn't technically our helper, but just having an extra adult to look after the children or to look over the children in that sense, right? To keep an eye out for them was already a relief for me. And then learning how to say that, okay, if in time I do need help, how to ask, right? Because for so long I felt that I could manage on my own. Initially when we moved in, I told her, okay, you know, don't worry, your work hasn't changed. This is still the nature of your work. The children are still under my care. But then over time with interaction, she began to show how much she adored the kids and really cared for us, and I felt that I could trust her more and more. It became very blurred, the line. Then I realized that, okay, if I do want to ask for help, I shouldn't feel guilty about it. But it took me very long. I think almost 3 years to really come and ask for help without feeling guilty. And one instance comes to mind when I had just delivered our 3rd child. I think this was just past confinement, and then my husband had a work event to attend on a Sunday night, and I was so wound up. I just couldn't understand why he had to go, and I was just crying. But he really had to go. I cannot remember where the baby was. But I was very upset. And then I came to the end of myself, and I recognized, because I'm a Christian, so in my own faith, I just recognized that I couldn't do this on my own. For me, it was a big milestone in my own journey as a mom, because when I had 2, it was still quite manageable. But with 3, and then I think maybe the hormones or the emotions, I was feeling very stressed out. But then I think from that journey, that point, into the rest of the journey so far, I've come to see that I cannot rely on myself to do what I had been doing previously as a mother of 2. But now as a mother of 3, I do need help. I cannot say, I can tank it. Don't worry, you can go off and do what you need to do, but I can manage it on my own. I've had to ask for help from my mom, my sister. I asked for help from my helper, not to take it personally in that sense that I cannot do it on my own anymore. I've grown in my journey of how I look at myself. Yeah.
Wow, thanks for sharing that emotional moment and also capturing so perfectly, right? It is a journey of growth, just even coming to see and coming to acknowledge that, yeah, I can't do this on my own, and it's perfectly all right to ask for help. It seems like even as we grow in our identity as moms, there are all these challenges and all these tensions that we may hold inside. I wonder if you've heard of this concept of the good enough mom and how that relates to both your stories and both your experiences, right? So instead of fixating on the million ways that we can be perfect, maybe like the social media reels that we often see about other people, how do you think we can show a little more compassion to ourselves?
I think learning to see where my weaknesses are and finding ways to support myself in those areas was one way of showing compassion to myself. So for a long time, I found excuses for myself to not exercise or not to go and see a therapist because I just didn't have time. I was working, I had kids, they're young, I have no help, I cannot do it on my own. And then when the opportunity presented itself, I had to make that decision for myself, to start exercising, to start seeing a therapist, to process all these things that were going around in my head, all the narratives that I was telling myself, all the baggage I was carrying, whether it was true or not, all these things that I was feeling, I needed to process it with somebody. And I felt that recognizing where I was lacking and then taking action was one way of showing compassion to myself.
Thanks for that. Totally agree, right? Like just acknowledging that we have our own limitations, and it's actually kind of sits quite nicely with your whole narrative about seeking help and seeking care for yourself. What about you, Jasmine?
For me, I'm really in a very different season from Adeline. 2 young adults, what is this good enough mother, right? The notion of it. I think through these different seasons when, they are the little toddlers, primary school, teens, the thinking shifts. And right now for me is to learn that one thing that undergirds for me still is to recognize my own strength and weaknesses, right? Both are young adults now, they have their own individual schedule, life and everything. But yet, I guess my strength is, for me to be a good enough mom is, if ever they need a person, a mom to listen to, I will want to be present. And one of it is through me cooking.
Nice.
Having that family meals, whether it's at home or outside at a restaurant or a cafe, it usually brings up conversations. And I feel those give me really, really a lot of encouragement, because for young adults to come and, share, although sometimes a bit like onions, need to peel a bit here and there, but it takes time. I also recognize that they're in different seasons. They're no longer, the physical needs are all met already, and it's a different season for them. So I need to learn to embrace that. And also, like what Adeline has shared, right? My own faith journey, really to live it in prayer that whatever it is, there will be a good plan for them. That is some assurance as well.
As I listen to both your stories, right, I think it strikes me that no matter what season you're in, Adeline in the younger season and Jasmine having journeyed through with your sons, right, the common thread is there is still growth. There is still things to be learned, right? There is still things to look forward to, as well as things to, we can tweak here and there and improve on ourselves and continue to work on that relationship with our kids. It's really inspiring to hear that both your young adult sons are still open to talk to you and to share with you.
Slowly but surely.
So thank you so much, Adeline and Jasmine, for sharing with us your motherhood stories. And perhaps it's even more than motherhood, right? It kind of tells me a little bit about your own personal growth journeys as well. As we come to the end of our podcast and little conversation, is there any final words of encouragement that you'd like to share with our listeners?
We are not perfect parents. Somewhere along our parenting journey, right, we may make mistakes. Try not to be too hard on yourself. Again, I shared earlier about, at times unconsciously, we really place unspoken expectation on ourselves that people really do not have of us. So I think I bit by bit let go of that. And the other thing is really, and I would like to really encourage all mothers to really have that self-care moment. Because that, when you fill up your physical tank, where you need to, whether you care for the young ones or even to wear the different hats that we have, right? And the emotional tanks to be present for our hubby, our children, in-laws, friends, right? I think it's so important, that self-care. Do something that gives you life. Do something that recharges you and make you happy. Last but not least, whenever you feel down, have negative thoughts that seep into your mind, think of those beautiful moments of parenting. Let that fill your mind and give the energy and encouragement to carry you on maybe the next day of parenting. That's my sharing.
Well said.
I think the thing I want to say is that we can love our children as much as we think we can master, but we also have to recognize that sometimes we need to help ourselves first before we can love them better. Sometimes the self-care doesn't have to take place outside the home. Sometimes I've just locked myself up in the room. I had a good cry, and then I just sit there, and then I process my emotions. Just being in the quietness without the kids fighting or yakking gives me a bit of space to kind of collect myself. I found that sometimes my phone is a major distraction. I think that when I lock myself out in the room, I should be using my phone, but I often feel worse coming out of it than if I don't use my phone. So learning to find a way that will make yourself feel better in a short period of time, especially when the kids are young, will be very helpful for you in your journey, because you may not always have the opportunity to take 2 hours, 4 hours, half a day to go out and just recharge. But even if you have 10 minutes in the bathroom, you're taking a shower, or you're sitting on the floor after you had a good cry, what is it that you're going to do to help yourself come out of that pit, whether it's through prayer or whether it is through meditation or breath work, whatever it may be? I think it's something that I am still learning, because my kids will not stop fighting. So in that, I feel that there are moments you can take to be alone. I would encourage you to find something that will help you come out of that space into a better place.
So well said, Adeline. Really agree. The million pieces of ourselves that we give away right through the day while caring for kids, caring for other responsibilities. And sometimes even that 5 minutes, 10 minutes of quiet can make so much difference. So thank you both so much for being here and to share so vulnerably your stories and so many tips and insights as well. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for having me.
So for more parenting resources, do remember to visit our website at family.org.sg. And that's all we have for today. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. Do keep tuning in to the ParentNet podcast to learn and grow in your parenting journey.